Welcome back to Ledger.Wealth.Network, where we break down what's really happening in crypto before the headlines catch up. If you want the signals, not the noise, you're in the right place. The financial world just handed XRP holders the ultimate vindication, and most people completely missed it. While everyone's debating whether we're in a bull market, institutional money is quietly positioning for what could be the largest infrastructure shift in modern banking history. I'm talking about survey data showing massive institutional XRP adoption plans, Swift literally implementing Ripple's 7-year-old roadmap, and regulatory precedents that are reshaping the entire crypto landscape. Here's what the mainstream narrative gets wrong. They think this is about crypto disrupting traditional finance. It's not. This is about traditional finance finally admitting that the crypto infrastructure they've been fighting actually solves their biggest problems. And the institutions that figured this out first are about to capture generational wealth. The proof isn't coming from crypto Twitter or opium-filled Reddit threads. It's coming directly from Coinbase institutional surveys, Swift conference announcements, and regulatory decisions that are setting precedent for the entire industry. By the end of this video, you'll understand why 2026 might be the year that separates the people who saw this coming from the people who didn't. Let me start with the number that should make every portfolio manager pay attention: 25%. That's the percentage of institutional investors planning to add XRP to their holdings in 2026, according to fresh Coinbase survey data. We're not talking about retail FOMO or social media speculation. These are institutions managing trillions of dollars in assets, making strategic allocation decisions. But here's where it gets really interesting. Evernorth CEO Ashish Birla just went on record saying institutional XRP exposure is jumping from 18% to 25%. And his exact quote was that institutional momentum around XRP is forming at a pace that simply didn't exist 18 months ago. 18 months ago, XRP was still battling the SEC in court. Today, institutions are openly discussing allocation strategies and timeline implementation. This institutional positioning is happening against a fascinating market backdrop that most retail investors don't understand. Right now, approximately 60% of XRP's circulating supply is sitting underwater. We're talking about 36.8 billion tokens, representing over 50 billion in unrealized losses. Most of these holders bought above today's price around the $144 level, which creates a unique dynamic. Near term, this means potential selling pressure as people exit at break even during any significant price movement. But once that supply gets absorbed during the next bull run acceleration, there's significantly less resistance above current levels. It's the classic setup, where short-term pain creates long-term opportunity for the people who understand the bigger picture. Speaking of the bigger picture, let me explain why this institutional timing isn't coincidental. Tom Lee just told CNBC that historically, markets usually bottom just 10% into major conflicts, and even during World War II, which lasted 5 years, markets bottomed after only 5 months. His assessment is that the current risk-reward setup for assets is extremely favorable right now. When traditional finance analysts are saying the setup looks good, that's institutional money getting ready to deploy capital. Now here's where the story gets really compelling, and it connects directly to why institutions are suddenly comfortable with XRP exposure. At the Sibos 2025 conference in Frankfurt, Swift made an announcement that should have sent shockwaves through the entire crypto community, but somehow flew under the radar. Swift officially announced they're modernizing their infrastructure in the exact direction that Ripple has been advocating for 7 years. They're combining distributed ledger technology and shared ledger systems with their existing messaging rails, implementing APIs, and adopting ISO 20022 standards to enable 247 real-time cross-border payments. Their exact terminology was building 2 parallel tracks that are mutually reinforcing. If that sounds familiar, it should. That's precisely the vision that Brad Garlinghouse outlined back in 2018 when he said there could be partnership opportunities with Swift rather than replacement scenarios. Ripple never positioned itself as destroying Swift. They positioned themselves as providing the infrastructure to upgrade the system that everyone already uses. Fast forward to 2025, and Swift is implementing shared ledger infrastructure, enabling tokenized value movement, pushing for instant cross-border payment capabilities. And here's the detail that changes everything. Ripple Treasury is now officially in the Swift Certified Partner Program. 7 years of fear, uncertainty, and doubt about XRP trying to replace Swift just evaporated overnight. Swift isn't fighting Ripple's technology. They're implementing it and certifying Ripple as an official partner. The convergence that XRP holders have been predicting isn't some future possibility. It's happening right now. This regulatory and infrastructure alignment is creating the perfect storm for institutional adoption, and the timing couldn't be better for the people who positioned early. When Congress originally drafted the Commodity Exchange Act, they gave exclusive regulatory authority over derivatives to the CFTC, not to individual state regulators. Recently, when state regulators tried to overstep their authority by suing CFTC-registered exchanges, the federal agency stepped in and asserted jurisdiction. This sets crucial precedent for federal authority over crypto regulation, which is exactly what XRP needed for institutional clarity. The regulatory framework is solidifying in favor of assets that work with traditional finance infrastructure rather than against it. What we're seeing play out is the complete validation of a thesis that most people thought was delusional just 2 years ago. The traditional finance system isn't being destroyed by blockchain technology. It's being upgraded with blockchain technology. And the projects that understood this distinction are capturing the institutional adoption wave. Swift's announcement proves that the largest financial messaging network in the world recognizes Ripple's approach was correct from the beginning. They're not building a competitor to Ripplet. They're building infrastructure that's mutually reinforcing with the technologies that Ripple pioneered and spent years perfecting while fighting regulatory battles. Meanwhile, institutional surveys are showing planned XRP allocations while 60% of current supply sits underwater with unrealized losses. This creates a supply-demand dynamic that favors anyone who understands what's actually happening beneath the surface market movements. The people who've been calling XRP holders delusional are the same people who missed Bitcoin at $50, Ethereum at $10, and Solana at $5. They're looking at price charts and social media sentiment instead of institutional adoption, patterns, and infrastructure development. Here's what they're missing. Infrastructure plays don't move like speculative tokens. They build slowly, create real utility, achieve regulatory clarity, then capture institutional adoption. Once institutional money starts flowing, the price discovery happens much faster than retail markets can process. The institutions planning XRP allocations in 2026 aren't making speculative bets. They're positioning for a financial infrastructure shift that's already underway. Swift's modernization isn't some theoretical future upgrade. It's happening now with Ripple as a certified partner, using the exact technological approach that XRP was designed to enable. The regulatory clarity that everyone said would never come is arriving piece by piece through federal precedent and agency jurisdiction decisions. The infrastructure convergence that seemed impossible is being announced at the largest financial conferences in the world. The institutional adoption that crypto maximalists said wouldn't happen is showing up in official survey data with specific timeline commitments. For the people who held XRP through the SEC lawsuit, through exchange DL listings, through years of being called delusional by crypto Twitter, you're about to be vindicated in the most spectacular way possible. Not because of social media hype, but because the fundamental thesis is playing out exactly as predicted. The financial infrastructure of the world is upgrading to blockchain technology, and XRP positioned itself perfectly for that transition. While other projects focused on destroying traditional finance, Ripple focused on improving it. While other tokens chased retail speculation, XRP built institutional relationships. While other communities celebrated being anti-establishment, XRP worked toward regulatory compliance. That strategy is about to pay off in ways that will separate the people who understood the long-term vision from the people who got distracted by short-term price movements and social media narratives. The infrastructure is converging, institutions are positioning, and the regulatory framework is solidifying. The next phase of this market cycle isn't going to be driven by retail FOMO or memecoin speculation. It's going to be driven by institutional adoption of the infrastructure that actually works with the existing financial system. The people laughing at XRP holders right now are the same people who laughed at Bitcoin holders at $50. The difference is that Bitcoin had to create its own adoption pathway. XRP is getting adopted by the infrastructure that already moves trillions of dollars every single day. Remember that when you're watching the institutional adoption phase accelerate over the next 18 months, the signals are all there for the people who know how to read them. The question isn't whether this is happening. The question is whether you're positioned for it. Hit that notification bell because this institutional adoption story is just getting started, and the next chapter is going to redefine what people think they know about crypto market cycles. The smart money is already moving. The question is whether you're moving with